we're going to talk about buying versus leasing a car today, and also buying potentially different things for your car, like customizing rims or customizing tires or stereo equipment or anything like that using a box and whisker plot. Today's video is going to be a little bit longer because I have a lot of information to share with you, so I do apologize about that, but we're going to go just dive right into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare these two situations on leasing a 2019 Honda Civic versus buying a 2019 Honda Civic. And we're going to talk about the differences between the payments, how do we calculate payments, what's better in the long run, what's better in the short run, and some of the benefits of both, okay? So to do this, we're going to use our amazing math skills to look at this scenario. So we're going to estimate the payment of a 2019 Honda Civic that is selling for $24,599, and you'll be leasing the vehicle for 3 years. The estimated resale value of the Honda after 3 years is $13,750. The sales tax and fees are estimated to be 10%, and you'll need 20% down payment. So to figure out a lease or your monthly payment for a lease, you need to use the following formula. So essentially you take your sales price, which is the $24,599, subtract it from the resale value, and then you add your taxes and fees and you subtract your down payment. Now, taxes and fees usually are calculated from the sales price. Now, the down payment is up to you. You can either use the down payment on the sales price or the depreciation. So depreciation is essentially how much the car is depreciating over the course of time. So your sales price minus the resale value. So in this specific scenario, we're going to use the down payment from the sales price and not from the depreciation, but you could potentially just put a down payment on the depreciation of the vehicle as well, okay? So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the sales price and then the resale, and then 10% we have to change into a decimal, so 0.10 times the sales price, and then minus the 20%, which is 0.20 times the sales price as well. And so we're going to do those calculations together. And so when we subtract the sales price minus the resale, we get $10,849. 10% and 20% are given accordingly. So essentially what we're going to be paying over the course of the 3 years is $8,389.10. To figure out our monthly payment, what we're going to do is we're going to take this number and we're going to divide it by the amount of months there are in 3 years. So 3 times 12, because there's 12 months in a year, so 3 times 12 is 36. And so our monthly payment for this lease will be $233.03. So pretty reasonable, not too expensive for this lease. And so let's compare how much we have to pay for this Honda Civic if we were to buy the car, okay? So we're assuming a lot of the same things. So we still are going to do 10% sales tax, same down payment. But the difference here is that we're going to finance the car for 6 years and the interest rate is 4.1%. Now notice that there was no interest rate for a lease. That's because the car place basically determines the resale value or how much it depreciates, and that's kind of their percentage or their percentage of financing, okay? And notice this is taking 2 times as long. Instead of having it for only 3 years, we actually are paying it off in 6. Now, there are a few benefits that I'm going to talk about in a minute with that, but let's get to the math first, okay? So in this scenario, we're going to use the formula of our sales price plus the tax and fees minus our down payment. So this is going to be very similar. The only difference is that we're going to have our $24,599 and we're not going to be subtracting anything from it like the $13,750. And we'll add the sales tax, the tax and fees, which we already calculated in the above problem, and subtract our down payment, which we already calculated in the above problem. And so what we're going to be paying over the course of 6 years, what the price that we're going to finance is going to be $22,139.10. We are going to actually spend a little bit more than that because we are financing this price. Now, if we had $22,139.10 lying around, it would be definitely better for us to just pay this off if we could. But because we don't, we're going to finance it, and so we're going to pay a little bit more. So we're going to use a car loan calculator to calculate this out. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the next slide. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take the price for finance, and we're going to take the amount of years and the sales tax, and that's going to give us our car loan calculator payment. So I just Googled this, car loan calculator. So you can see here is the loan amount, which is the $22,139. Okay. Interest rate, which was 4.1, and then it's 72 months because it's 6 years. So 6 times 12 will give me 72. So our monthly payment will be $347. Now notice in the end, we actually paid $25,011, okay, because we are paying interest on this. So it's not the exact amount that we initially put, which was the $22,000. So we're paying essentially about $3,000 more in interest because we have to finance it, okay? Oops. So we'll have a monthly payment of $347. So when we look at leasing versus buying, a couple of things that you need to know is that in the long run, it is actually better to purchase a vehicle. Now, it's better to purchase a vehicle because of the fact that we're going to have an asset that we can resell at any time. And we're not going to have to be making these monthly payments after those 6 years. And so it will be cheaper for us in the long run to purchase. What will be cheaper in the first year is definitely leasing. You can notice that in leasing, our monthly payments are a lot cheaper. We're only paying $233 versus $347. So we're going to definitely be paying less in the short run for leasing, but you have to realize that we have to give the car back. And so we're not actually keeping anything. So it's almost like renting an apartment. You don't own that property. You're just giving money to another person to borrow that property. It's the same with a car. Okay. Now, benefits of leasing is obviously you have smaller monthly payments, and that's going to be really key if you don't have a lot of money. So a lot of the times people choose to lease because they can't afford to actually buy. Another reason why people choose to lease over buying is because of the fact that they get a new car every 3 years. And so a lot of people want that nice, bright, shiny vehicle. And so they, find benefit in not keeping it because they get the newest and greatest in technology and, their vehicle and everything. And so that's something that a lot of people like as well. But there are definitely some long-term benefits of buying a car over leasing. One is that you actually own your car. And that's considered an asset. So because you have an asset, you can resell it. So you own a car, so you have an asset. So you can sell it, and so you can make money off your car in, let's say 10 years down the line, you could still profit essentially on having your car. Another thing with buying a car is you can customize your different items. So you can add rims to it, you can put a nice stereo system in there, you can paint it, you can add really souped up tires if you wanted, With a lease, you really can't change the vehicle whatsoever. So this really gives you a lot of options where you can customize it, which is really, really beneficial for people. Another thing that's beneficial for buying a car is that your car insurance is lower. So you do pay less in car insurance because of the fact that you don't necessarily, you own that vehicle. And so essentially it's an asset. And so if you were to get in an accident because you have an asset, it helps you lower those monthly car insurance payments, which is really, really key as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at talking about if we were to customize our car, what would be some things that we'd want to customize and how would we compare prices? Now, essentially what you want to do is that you want to be thinking about, comparing prices and not just buying the first thing that you see, okay? And usually sometimes people will use something called a box and whisker plot to help them compare prices. Now, some people will not use a box and whisker plot, and I totally get it. It might not work for you, but we're going to explain what a box and whisker plot is and how you can interpret one, okay? So essentially what this does is it takes a whole bunch of data. So let's say prices for tires, okay? And it puts them in a way so that you know the median, which is the middle value of the prices, and then what's the minimum value and what's the maximum value. So what you can see is that on the whisker, you're going to have the minimum or the least amount that you would have to pay for those tires. And then you would have the maximum of how much you'd have to pay for those tires. And then the most important is the median, because that's the middle value. So really when you're going in to negotiate, if you have a good idea of what the min, the max, and the median are, that's going to really help you in negotiations. And then you have this interquartile range, which is 50%. So 50% of your data lies within this interquartile range. And so that's going to be really key, because you know that most people are probably paying between Q1 and Q3. There's probably not very many people that are paying a minimum or maximum. It's usually probably when they have sales, or maybe you were stranded on the freeway and you had to pay an exorbitant amount of money for tires, and so that you might be paying those maximums. But you really want to be sticking in between the Q1 and the Q3 so that you are not having to overpay or for what you're getting, okay? So I'm going to look at an example that is not related to cars, but so you can kind of understand and see what a box and whisker plot looks like, but it's related to test scores, which I'm sure you guys all have taken at some point, okay? So we have our numbers, or our number line on the bottom, and then you have your box and whisker plot. So what we're seeing here is that we have the smallest score of 55, okay? So this is, or the lowest score, I guess. Now, if we're looking at that in terms of tire prices, then the least amount you should pay for tires is 55, or that's the lowest price. And then on the top, you have the other end. This is the highest score, which is 120. Or if you, again, were thinking about tires, you shouldn't be paying over $120 for tires if this was in regards to tires. Then your 80 score is your median. So that's your middle value, okay? So if you score higher than 80, you're doing pretty good because you're above 50% of the class. If you score lower than 80, then you're not doing so well because you're in the bottom percentile. But if you look at the IQR, or interquartile range, it ranges from 65 to 115. So if you scored anywhere between 65 and 115, you're in the majority of the class, in a sense that you're in the middle 50 percentile. And so if you were looking at this in regards to your tires, you would want to not pay more than $115 for tires, but you probably aren't going to get anything cheaper than $65 for tires. And you really want to be aiming for that $80. So if you went into a place and they said, "Oh, our tires are selling for $200, you're going to be like, "Heck no, that is an outlier. That is way higher than the highest price that you should ever pay for tires." So you would say, "Nope, I'm not going to pay that." And you would either negotiate your way down, or you would go to a different tire store. And then another thing is let's say they were having sale on tires and it was only $30. You might second guess and really say, is it really $30? Like, what are they potentially, swindling you on? Because you know that most of the low scores are 55. And so if it's $30, that's really, again, another outlier. And so you might want to double check and make sure that you're actually getting the right product that you're actually looking for. So box and whisker plots can definitely help us in regards to comparing prices of car vehicles, different parts of cars, rims. They could be, stereo systems. We could even compare insurances with box and whisker plots, but they're definitely helpful because we can identify where the median is, what's the low, what's the high, and what would be an outlier, meaning what would be a number that would really not even fall within this box and whisker plot. And we might want to second guess and question ourselves, like, why is this price this high or this low? So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, I'm so sorry that it was so long, but I will see you guys in class, and let me know if you have any questions.